Good evening. Welcome to the Community Awareness Committee's February panel discussion. Our topic this evening is cultural diversity. I am Trish Steiner, Chair of the Community Awareness Committee. We are a committee of the Neighborhood Safety Commission. The Neighborhood Safety Commission is comprised of individuals appointed by the chairman and the district commissioners. We welcome you and thank you for attending this evening, and welcome those of you who are watching on Channel 23. Our committee members are Vicki Plunkett, Pearl Roberts, and Joel Cope. We have file cards available for written questions. Please turn your cell phones off or on silent, as your phone will interfere with the broadcasting of this discussion. Our moderator this evening is Kim McCoy, Director of the Victims Witness Unit, Office of the District Attorney. We especially want to thank Kim and our distinguished panel members, and Kim will be glad to introduce you. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Trish. Good evening. We're so excited that all of you are here with us tonight. As the Victim Witness Director for the District Attorney's Office, I often work with victims of crime who are some undocumented, some do not speak English, some need resources other than what the court system can provide, and those cultural differences come into play a lot when we're dealing not only with the general public, but obviously with victims of crime. So what we're here tonight to do is really to just give an overview of the cultural diversity that exists here in Cobb County, to talk about the different communities that are represented, to provide some information to those communities, as well as to provide some resources for our members of Cobb County who are living in those communities. So first I want to introduce our panel, and I'm going to just introduce you by name first, and then I'm going to come back and ask each of you to introduce your agency and tell a little bit about what each of you do in the community, as well as professionally, if you care to share that as well. So first we have Belisa Urbina, with Sur Familia. We have Christina Dumitrescu with Legal Aid of Cobb County. We have Alan Panchame, who is a detective with the Crimes Against Persons Unit with Cobb County Police. We have Stephanie McKay, who is with the Sweetwater Mission. We have Ronan Moriaria, close?
Yes.
Who is with the Brazilian community. We will also, I believe, have a member from Raksha coming in later, Aparna Bhattacharya. And we also have Donna Rogers, who is here representing the African American community. So thank you, each and every one of you, for taking your time and energy out on this very cold evening to be here with us. And if you don't mind, I'm going to turn it over to each of you for a few minutes, again, to talk about your agency and tell us a little bit about what you do. And we will start with Belisa.
Thank you for the invitation. Good evening, everybody. I am the Executive Director of Ser Familia. Ser Familia is a nonprofit organization that has been serving the Cobb County community and the general community in Metro Atlanta since 2001. What we do is provide the ability for people to live in a safer, healthier home environment by doing couples programs, doing parenting classes. We have programs for youth. We have family communication workshops, life skills, cultural proficiency, domestic violence awareness. So it's an array of programs that is specifically directed to the Latino community and specifically to Cobb County. This is where we were born. This is where we have our main headquarters, if we can call it that way, and this is where the bulk of our clients come from. So we just go into the community. Instead of people coming to our office, we partner with churches, schools, and other community groups, and we take those skills into the community so that people can benefit and learn, those abilities that will make them live, healthier and happier lives.
Very nice, thank you. And before we leave you, I want to ask you one question. One of the things we learn when we're working with different cultures is not to stereotype. So I apologize that I'm stereotyping, but I hear an accent in your voice. So can you tell us what your background is?
Sure. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I moved to Georgia 15 years ago. So I have been in the community for a while, but I am a very happy native Puerto Rican.
Thank you very much. And for each of the other panel members, if you represent a certain community or have a culturally specific background, if you could share that with us as well. Christina?
Hi, my name is Christina Dumitrescu. I'm a staff attorney with Legal Aid of Cobb County. Legal Aid of Cobb County is a branch office of the Atlanta Legal Aid Society, and that is a law firm based in Atlanta. We serve the metro Atlanta community, and we assist the low-income population here in Cobb County. We assist with all sorts of civil cases, everything from family law to housing to benefits, anything you can imagine that's low income for the low income population. And my personal background, I've been with the Cobb office since September, I believe, of 2011. I am a multilingual attorney there. I primarily practice with Spanish clients and Spanish-speaking clients and English-speaking clients. And I also speak Romanian. I'm from Romania, but I have yet to have a Romanian client, so I'm waiting.
Well, maybe now they'll know about your services
Yes.
and can take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan?
Hey, I'm Detective Panchame, Alan Panchame with Cobb County Police Department. Right now, I'm with the Crimes Against Persons Unit. I've been with the department just over 18 years. When I started here, I started down in the Zone 2 area, which is South Cobb. One of the big assets that I had when I was down there was being able to speak Spanish with such few officers that spoke Spanish at the time. I was actually pulled around pretty much assisting in it as far as translation. One of the big obstacles I did see at the time when I was there was that many people distrusted the police because no one spoke Spanish. So myself and other officers who did speak were able to have more of an attachment, and we were able to go out to the communities and start speaking more to many of the business owners and workers and residents in the area. From there, I went to the COPE unit, which is the Community Policing Unit, and I think that helped me out a little bit more because I was able to have a little bit more freedom as far as going out and speaking more to the communities. From there, I went to the gang unit, CAGE. While in CAGE, the Spanish also assisted in being able to communicate with not only victims from gang violence, but also in investigations having to do with Hispanic gang members. After there, I was in an organized crime unit, and again, the Spanish assisted me tremendously there for investigations that we did there, both against organized crime that having to do with Hispanics or Latinos, and also dealing with victims who only spoke Spanish. Now I'm presently, again, working for Crimes Against Persons, and once again, Spanish has helped me tremendously. I did help at the academy as well as far as teaching Spanish to recruits as they were coming in.
Very nice. Thank you. Ms. Stephanie?
I'm Stephanie McKay, and I'm with Sweetwater Mission. Since 1968, we have been providing food, clothing, and trying to prevent homelessness in our communities. We are located in Austell, Georgia. Every day from 9 to 1, folks come and get groceries and clothing. We provide other kinds of services based on their need. And that's pretty much, I've been doing this kind of work in social services pretty much all my life. For about 40 years now. So, been working with folks whose voices don't often get heard and try to be their voice sometimes.
Okay, one question before we leave you. You said you work with your clients based on their need. Mm-hmm. Are there requirements that your clients have to meet? Are there program stipulations? Tell us a little bit about how a client would interact with your program.
Most of the people that we serve are people who are living in poverty or just making those ends meet. They need to come to us with valid ID for themselves and all the household members and a piece of current mail. And that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Thank you. Ronan?
My name is Ronan. I'm representing the Brazilian community. And mainly what I'm involved is back in high school, I used to focus a lot being head of the Brazilians. And we focus on events and showing our culture and also helping out. New students are coming from other countries with the ESL programs. And also, I've been also a member of the Vine Atlanta, which is a community church. And what we do, we help other communities, and we go to complexes and we serve them with food, and sometimes we go wash like their cars, and we're also involved in kids program, and we have kids days and all sort of related, to try to help the community as well.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ms. Rogers.
My name is Donna Rogers, and I represent PTA for Powder Springs Elementary. I believe in giving a voice to everybody, so even though I'm here representing the African American society, I also represent all children everywhere, and I want to be a voice and an advocate for everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you again to each of you for being here. We want to recognize two things before we get started with the panel. First of all, each of you are speaking English. And the reason each of you are speaking English is because that's how the panel is presented this evening. At the end, I'm going to give you each time to say something in your native language to kind of, again, reach out to the community in which you represent, if that's okay with you. So kind of be thinking about your elevator speech if you want to for the end of the panel. The second thing is, again, while we are primarily speaking in English this evening and presenting the information in English, we have a wide variety of resources available to our audience here, and those resources will also be posted to the Neighborhood Safety Commission website. So for anyone watching, you can, at some point in the near future, go to the Neighborhood Safety Commission website and be able to download all the materials that each of your agencies have provided for this panel. Okay? Okay, so let's get started with some questions. I'm just going to pose them in no random order, so you are welcome to jump in anytime you would like. If I do have a question for a specific person, I'll designate that as we move around throughout the questions. So for the first question, I am going to ask Belina and Ronan to specifically answer these questions, and then we'll let the other panel members jump in as well. So the questions were provided in advance by some community members, and then we'll have some other questions from the live audience as we move along. So the first question for Belisa and Ronan: do you find it easy to live among members of the community who may not be of your culture or be very aware of your culture and of your language? And tell us a little bit about that experience. Long question, I know.
I can speak about myself, my personal experience. It's not always easy, but I think that you have to approach it with a, with a certain spirit or a certain attitude. Our agency does a lot of cultural proficiency training. Actually, in a given year, we train law enforcement officers and government offices and private nonprofits. And one of the things that I always tell people whenever they are at our classes is that I have never met someone that doesn't want to be treated with respect. So that's my approach. I just treat everybody with respect. I try to always have a positive attitude and have a smile in my face. Yes, you're going to have people that might, mistreat you or be rude to you. But I think that most people respond to the manner in which you treat them. So most of the people that I have encountered in my 15 years in Cobb County, and mind you, when I moved to the area, there were not as many Latinos as there are now. So yes, we have found, some instances in which you feel uncomfortable, but most people, if you have a gracious attitude, they will respond back in the same manner.
That's very good to know about our community. Thank you. Ronan?
I agree with her, and like she said, if you treat someone with respect, you expect to get respect back as well from the other person. And by being in the Brazilian community, maybe people have a different vision of you based on what they see on the news, based on what they hear from that country, and probably partial of that maybe not all be true because they're judging you by what they're looking in the news. And sometimes that affects you, and that hurts you a little bit, but then, like I said, you just open a smile on your face and you just treat them with respect, and I guess they will understand.
Excellent, thank you. And Ms. Rogers, I'm going to pose the question to you from a child perspective. What are we teaching our children about cultural sensitivity and living among and dealing with people from different cultures?
That you shouldn't pick at other people or make fun of them if they speak differently. You should accept everybody for where they come from and what they have to offer, and then learn from them.
Very good, thank you. Our next question is about employment. I know that there are some hurdles with language barriers as well as documentation for different ethnicities to find work in our community and in our county. So I'm going to go down the line and ask each of you to speak to the difficulties that you might see your clients exhibit and how you overcome those difficulties.
From the Latino community perspective, yes, there are some hurdles when people are trying to get a job and get or move up in a job whenever they have one job because they might not have all the documents that are required, or they might not speak the language. Most of the people, the Latinos that came here, are coming because there are jobs. There are jobs that they are able to do. And sometimes it's easy to judge the world from our perspective and our circumstances. Even though I feel Latina, I speak Spanish, and this is my community, I cannot judge everybody's circumstances from what I have experienced. And many times what I have seen is that you are easy to say, oh, I would not do that. You know, why do they come here? What are they in the community? Because if you put yourself in their shoes, if you are in this little town and you have 3, 4 children, and you have the opportunity of somebody telling you, if you go up 500 miles, 5,000 miles, you will find food for your kids, you will be able to get a job that you will never be able to get here. Would you do it? I don't know. I have not been in that position. So it's very hard for me to judge. And I feel for many times for our Latinos when they are trying to, you know, get opportunities that they are very difficult for them to achieve.
Well, I think for Legal Aid of Cobb County, we have a very unique approach, I believe, because we don't see a lot of people that seek employment with us, but the issue that comes to my mind immediately deals with domestic violence, actually, and that we see with the Latino population, that victims of domestic violence will often be stuck in relationships that they don't want to be in, or that's abusive, or or both. But so we do see challenges in that area, to where oftentimes the spouse, the abusive spouse, is the only person earning, that has a job, earning and bringing home any sort of income. So it's more difficult for the women to be able to escape that situation. So we really try to use the knowledge that we have, and we really try to take an approach to those cases that's comprehensive, because it's not as easy as why doesn't she just leave. And I'm sure a lot of the members of the panel hear this all the time. If they're being abused, why don't they just leave? It's not that easy. So in the realm of employment, since that relates to your question, I think that we deal with that with the undocumented immigrants having a hard time escaping.
And while your agency may not have the ability to provide job skills or personal skills, you certainly have resources in which you can refer those clients to.
Absolutely. So we try to connect with our community partners, and we try to provide comprehensive solutions, really, to all of the issues that they have. So we assist within legal aid, we assist with their legal issue, which is often going to be a temporary protective order, also known as a restraining order, and possibly a divorce, child support. Child support certainly makes it easier for these victims to be able to survive on their own if they have children. And we hook them up with all sorts of resources, the YWCA of Northwest Georgia, and immigration attorneys, if it's applicable to where they have an immigration issues that they could get resolved. So we really try to connect with all of the community resources and provide a totality of solutions that we can.
Detective, from the police perspective?
Well, the police department, to become a police officer, you have to be a citizen in the United States. So many of the immigrants who come who don't have full citizenship yet won't be able to join. But one of the things I've seen as far as going through my years here, as far as helping workers in the community, I've seen a lot of workers who've been taken advantage of by employers. And one thing we have done, especially when I was back in the COPE unit and the gang unit, we would actually go and do what we could to assist these workers by going to their employers and trying to find out how we can fix the problem as far as paying them, giving them their compensation for the work that they have done. And we have seen that taking advantage of many of these workers coming over. Things have grown better as far as communication. We do have more officers who speak Spanish. We do have more officers who speak many languages, including Portuguese and other things here in the county. So I'm very happy to see that. And again, when I teach Spanish at the academy, many of the officers that come through, I do see different languages being brought in. So the diversity has really gone up in the department as far as being able to communicate. I'm not called out every time now whenever something happens, except in my unit. But like I said, working with we go out now. I try to tell the officers, go out, talk to people, even if maybe they don't understand you completely. Go to the businesses, go to the shop owners, give them your card, try to let them know who you are, because once they see you and they can communicate you at least a little bit, they'll trust you more. And once we go out on scenes, if they see you and they recognize you, they're going to want to more come to you and gravitate towards you, even though you might not be involved, but they may have information over something that took place, a crime or something. And they might want to tell you to pass it on to investigators on the scene. So, yeah, with the workers, we're trying to, or even all citizens out, we're trying to, but especially with the business community, we're trying to go out and speak to them more.
Very good.
So most of the folks that we serve are living at or below the poverty level. Most of those folks are employed. Unfortunately, they, like many other folks who are making minimum wage, when you do the numbers here in Cobb County, if you work 40 hours a week on minimum wage, you can't afford a place to live. So, trying to then change that perspective when you don't have the resources is a challenge. We try to help folks. We've got a couple of programs, one that works specifically with women, helping them with job readiness, getting comfortable with computers, fixing up their resumes, some self-confidence kinds of things. We have another program that's just starting, Rescue, Repurpose, Redeem, that is specifically designed to support folks living with disabilities who may have experienced homelessness, and most of them are veterans. And we rescue materials that nobody else wants or they've donated to us. We repurpose those into other beautiful, artful items, one of a kind, handmade, and that rescues self-respect and dignity for the artisans working in the program. What we see a lot is families who want to do better, make more, but if you don't have transportation, it's difficult to get to that job that might pay more. If you are making minimum wage, even if you'd like to change jobs, transportation gets settled, well, then what about childcare? Childcare is very expensive. So there's lots of hurdles that the folks we are serving face that, we try to connect them with the appropriate kinds of services, but it is difficult because for every service, there's some sort of qualifying criteria as well.
Thank you.
In my aspect, I can see speaking for my parents actually, because when they got here, they barely knew any English, and that was a language barrier for them. And by them trying to get a job, it's hard because they got to get the job that's whatever it's assigned to them. Like they cannot be like in a job that Americans are doing because they don't speak the language. So they ended up doing either construction or they ended up doing housekeeping or, those kind of jobs that don't require any documents or doesn't require any language because all you're providing them is with the labor, not with the communication. And it's a challenge, and it was also a challenge for me going to school and also trying to get a job. And like she said, transportation when you first get here and until you get your documents going on, it's hard to go to places to look for jobs because you got to go on interviews, and then if you don't have any, transportation to go to those interviews, you're not going to be getting the job. So I see it as a challenge, but then I also encourage all the Hispanics and all the Latino community to look forward, because then there's also those jobs that they're looking for the labor, they're looking for that language. Like I would say, I work at a flooring company, and they requested me because I speak many languages, and I'm dealing constantly with Latinos and Brazilians and all sort of other people from other countries that I can speak the language for. And then that way you can help those employees and also help yourself by helping the community with the language as well.
Great, thank you. Do you need me to repeat the question? Ms. Donna?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the question is, Is it difficult for those of different cultures to find gainful employment or work in our community? And what are the barriers, and how do we encourage people in our community to overcome those?
The barrier for people in the African American community is finding good jobs that will pay you what you're worth. You may get a job, but you can't support your family, and if you have more than one child, it's very difficult to just live and survive. So you have to pick and choose what's going to be best for you, and it's always trying to move up that ladder to the next step in life and trying to have a career path. Most of us, we have a job and we're happy to have the job, but we don't focus beyond that to try to get more education, to move up, because you're grateful for what you got. You don't want to rock the boat. And that's, sometimes we handicap ourselves, whereas some people can go as far as they want and there's no glass ceiling. But for us, you're limited in your thinking, and sometimes you're limited in your abilities, because you may be trained for a special skill, but if no one gives you that opportunity, you can't move up.
Okay. Aparna, we're going to spend a few minutes with you. Thank you for coming to join us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Aparna represents Raksha, and so I'm going to ask you, before you answer this question, to introduce yourself and your agency and tell us a little bit about the purpose of Raksha.
My name is Aparna Bhattacharya. I'm the executive director of Raksha, which means protection in many South Asian languages, and it's a nonprofit that provides support services to South Asians, especially those who are dealing with domestic violence, sexual violence, or crime victimization of any sort. So we've been around 20 years, our 20th year, yay. And of course, we've partnered with a number of the communities and training folks on how to work with immigrant survivors of domestic violence, sexual violence, of course, and even trafficking and other types of crimes. What we provide is like counseling services, advocacy, helping folks get jobs. Because we're the only organization serving the South Asian community, we try to be holistic in our framework and provide our clients with all that they need. So that's a quick version of what we do.
So I want to ask you one question, because I've heard you speak several different times, and you have a wealth of information about statistics, about different minority groups and cultures that are represented. So can you pull some of those from the top of your head?
I'd probably say there's about close to 150 South Asians in the metropolitan Atlanta area, and then we're one of the fastest growing Asian populations. The South Asian community is one of the fastest growing South Asian communities in metropolitan Atlanta. So we're growing, and easily I'd say our growth is anywhere from 100 to 250 depending on which community. And the South Asian community consists of individuals from Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Pakistan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka.
Okay, so let's talk about the struggles with employment in your community.
So we have a very diverse community. So you can have anyone who might be undocumented to folks who are highly professional. And then in between, you've got individuals who have what you call non-immigrant visas. So it's called an H-1B visa, which means you're here and you're sponsored by your employer, and that's the only place where you can work. And because we work with survivors of domestic violence, a lot of the spouses of H-1B workers are on something called an H-4 visa. And that visa means you cannot work. So imagine being a survivor of domestic violence. You want to leave your situation. It's very difficult to do that if you're on the specialized visa, because you're not allowed to work. You can only be in shelter for X amount of months. And if you're trying to apply for any kind of immigration relief, it can take 6 months to a year. So you end up in a situation where it's very difficult to support yourself. And how do you do that? Shelters may give you 3 months. They may give you more if you're lucky. But then how do you support yourself? Then you end up being in those situations where you might be working under the table, your labor might be exploited, and you might not get paid, or you might be re-victimized again. So that's one aspect. I mean, I think everybody talked about what it's like to be undocumented already and those challenges, but we're also folks who are legally here who end up in very difficult situations. And like with many of our clients, language is an issue, transportation is an issue, and then having the documentation to be able to work are huge issues that our clients face.
Okay, thank you. So those challenges, we've talked about how some of those challenges can lead to the criminal aspects. I want to focus with legal aid and cop police. If someone is a victim of crime or witnesses a crime, what options, what should we be encouraging those who may not speak English or are undocumented? How should we be providing services to them and responding to them in light of the fact that they may be a victim of or a witness to a crime? Alan, I think we want to go to you first.
Yeah, that's fine. One of the things people, whenever any crimes are committed, we always get plenty of witnesses or people saying that there were a group of witnesses but nobody wants to come forward. One of the main things people think is that we're going to arrest them because they're illegal aliens or illegal immigrants. What I try explaining to many people is that we're not the federal government. We don't have powers to take illegal aliens and take them back to their home country. So what we try to tell them is, come forward, give us information. You know, we will try to assist you as best we can, or assist the investigations as best we can with the information you give us. But we're not looking to arrest anyone. We're not looking to take anyone back home to their home countries. But what we need is a little bit more help. We've had many crimes that probably could have been solved easily had more people wanted to speak to us, had they felt more comfortable. But because of many in their countries, the police or the military, they only know bad things from them. So what we try to explain to them is we're not. You know, we're here trying to solve crimes. We're trying to help people out there because the amount of crime that does happen in these communities is very high. A lot of it does not go documented. They don't report it because they're afraid to. They don't want to speak to the police. They just think that bad things are going to happen when we get involved. So, again, we try to go out as best we can on cases, especially major cases. We canvass the area and we'll speak to many people and try to say, hey, do you have some information on us? And really, we have been getting a little bit more help. More people are coming forward, giving information. Again, nobody wants to give their name and all that, so we try to tell them there's a tip number. You can call up, give a tip. You know, if you see an officer, you know, give them, hey, I think I know something. We have many officers, like, again, that speak Spanish on the road now, and they'll pass the information on to where it needs to be passed on. So like I said, what we try to tell the immigrants and people out there, talk to us, you know, have some communication. We just need to get information so we can get on with our investigations, but we're not looking to come after them at all.
Great, thank you. And Christina, there is some relief for victims of crime. If you can address that a little bit.
Absolutely. So actually, first, let me go to what you said and just agree with you that victims are often afraid to come forward. And so it's really wonderful when they do come forward and they really do seek out, because the help is there. And there are so many organizations that are so wonderful and they're there. But it sometimes is a struggle to get the victims to come out. So by the time they come to legal aid, they have usually already gone through the criminal process, if you will. So they will have probably already spoken to a victim advocate, or the criminal case will have happened. Then they come to our office, and we usually assist with the domestic violence specific, because in the civil legal world, that's mainly what it is we'll help them get a protective order. And essentially, I like to think of it as putting the pieces back together. They've had this possibly horrible incident happen in their lives. The systems become involved. Somebody's been arrested probably. So now what? So now they're at home, and these victims are, may have children, and they don't have a job, and they don't have a way to pay any of their bills or do anything. So that's where we really try to step in, and within the legal framework and within the framework of the community resources out there, try to put them back together. So go get them a temporary protective order if that's what's appropriate for them. Make sure they're protected first and foremost. That's going to be our number one. Number two, make sure, and then obviously make sure that the kids are protected as well to go in. That number two is try to get their immediate housing, if you will, and immediate status stable, so that at least for the foreseeable future, they have a place to live, they have food to eat, they can stand on their own 2 feet. And then, do they want a divorce? Talk to them about that. Just really do a comprehensive analysis of what their legal issues are, and discuss how we can move forward and how we can help build your life back up and put you together without having to go through this again. And in that process, of course, we reach out to many, many resources. Like I said, they're all out there. It's just a matter of of having the clients want to reach out to them first of all, because that's a huge challenge for us as well. And then getting them the phone numbers, getting the connection set up, and just really try to just be one stepping stone towards their getting their lives together.
Great, thank you. So several of the panel members have talked about resources. Let's talk about what your agency does to educate not only your community, but the Cobb community or other communities about those resources and how we can connect those who are in need with the resources that are available. So we'll start with Aparna this time and go this way. If you can talk about kind of how do you connect the dots with what the needs are and what resources are there.
So we have many things. I talked about the service, but I didn't talk about the training. So one of the things that we do as an agency is also train service providers, law enforcement, and court officials on providing services to immigrant communities. And one of the things, and I brought a little display, is these lovely I Speak booklets, which actually is a language identification card. And we brought this because this is something we helped create, and we can distribute for any police officers or courts that may want it, is basically so folks can identify their language and so that they can get the appropriate interpreter, because there's more languages than, Spanish. We have too many languages in Metro Atlanta, but in Cobb County is quite diverse. So I'm sure just being able to get the new communities and have those languages identified is one thing that we do. We also do training on immigration relief available for many communities. So letting communities know that there is immigration relief depending on the situation. So if, you are reporting a crime and you've been a victim of a crime, there might be immigration relief available to you, and letting them know what's available, but also training officers, courts, and other service providers on that same immigration relief. So part of it's just letting people know what the rights are, but also where to obtain it, and bridging those connections. So if someone is saying, okay, I'm in Cobb County, I'd probably call you, Kim, and be like, hey, can you help out the survivor? Because within our community, we're working with the entire metropolitan Atlanta. So we have to have relationships with different agencies in each county to make sure folks can connect to the appropriate person. And then we feel like, okay, we've got a trusted person that can help, our client out. And if we need to be there, we will definitely be there. So that's one thing that we do to really kind of connect the dots, get people connected, and making sure they're getting the right legal services, whether it's family law or immigration.
Great, thank you.
The one thing we do is educate. We try to educate as much as possible. Anything that's coming up that the community needs to know about, we try to educate everybody in the school. If it's a new law or anything that's going to be happening, we try to send it out so that everybody's aware. So education is our big thing that we push for everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In the presenting community, we try to advertise our services. We have two main magazines that we pass it on for free in this in the Metro Atlanta. And in the magazine, it shows all the events, and it shows immigration status and all the services, law, and help with anything like with job-wise, if someone's needing a roommate even. It's over there, and we provide them with those service for someone that's probably just got here, and they're looking for, for some help. And over there, we have communities that are helping with classes for people that want to speak English, and then it's like classes for free, like in community churches, they teach you English, and then other communities, they teach you how to do certain types of jobs and employment, and that's mainly it. We provide them with advertising with our service, try to help them out with other Brazilian communities around.
Great, and so how does someone get your magazine?
Our magazines are mainly distributed in the Brazilian places, like restaurants and supermarkets. We have some mainly by Powys Ferry and Delk Road. That's mainly where our community is located. So if you need some help, you can just go there, and then the magazine is going to be probably outside, or you can just ask someone for it, and they can help you.
Great. Good to know. Thank you.
The population that we serve at Sweetwater is very diverse. We have people from many countries. Most of the folks that we are dealing with in terms of language are people who are Spanish speaking. All of our information is provided in both English and Spanish. We have staff members who speak Spanish as their native tongue and English is their second language, and then we have me, who doesn't speak very much Spanish, but I am learning. And, we have some volunteers that also speak other languages. So we just try to embrace the community. Everything is, your ethnicity doesn't change the response that you get from us. So if you come and you need groceries, we're going to make sure that you get groceries for your family. If you come and you need diapers or a blanket or a warm coat, we're going to make sure that you've got that. We do other programs throughout the year, different kinds of special programs for families. We are also working very closely with the schools right now through a new grant with United Way to stabilize families. So through the schools, if there is a family that is at risk of homelessness, really sort of having a hard time getting things together, the school can refer that family to us. They're assigned a case manager who helps them with some minimal financial resources to get them back on track. We make sure everybody's got, food, because that's really important for everybody, that folks have the clothes they need, other household items, just stabilizing that family. And it doesn't matter whether or not that family, what language they speak, or what country they might have come from. We pretty much take folks as they come to us at the door.
Great, thanks. And Detective, police don't necessarily have to advertise their services.
No,
But I'm well aware
I know your number.
Cobb Police does a great job in our community in outreach and crime prevention. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Well, one of the things too, many of the pamphlets that are offered from a lot of our different departments or different each like units now come in different languages, and one of them is primarily Spanish. And believe it or not, one of the big things also is when we go out to schools, especially when I was in the gang unit, the kids, they learn. One of the bad things that we always get is, parents always see us and they say, if you misbehave, we're going to call the police on you. And we try doing that with the community. A lot of communities, they don't want to call the police because they think something's going to happen to them. So with the kids, we'll go to the schools, especially when at some of the units I've been in, and I've been able to go and talk to the kids. And even my daughter, who's in school, I go and I talk to her friends, all the kids in school, try to tell them, if something goes wrong, you need to talk to us. Many of the schools that we've gone to that are very diverse, and many of the kids speak both English and Spanish, they turn out to be our translators for many officers when they go out on scenes. So we're trying to go out and talk to the kids, tell them, hey, listen, if anything going on, your parents can talk to us, you can talk to, tell your teachers, and then we'll come out, and if there's any problem stuff, and your parents can through them. And we've actually come across many cases like that where the parents will come speak to us because we've had communication through their kids at school. It's just another way that we can communicate. But yeah, it's funny how now the kids are the ones that are actually, and that in a way sometimes it's sad though, because the kids have to communicate and translate crimes that have occurred, and they have to translate certain things that have happened, and we really don't want that. But again, with them being able to tell the adults, the parents, to talk to us, it does bridge the gap a little more.
Very good. Christina?
Yes, so let me start out with telling you a little bit in more detail about what we do before I tell you about the outreach, because it's very specific. So within legal aid, what we do is, like I said earlier, provide free legal services. The areas of assistance generally, so family law, consumer, public benefits like Social Security and TANF and food stamps and legal issues dealing with that, education, housing, health, unemployment, and then we have some specialized units. So we do a little bit of everything, and primarily what we do within our office is open up intakes, open up cases, and advise or represent. And we had last year for 2014, we had a little bit over 3,000 cases open for the year, which I did the math, and it is about an average of 265 cases a month for 6 attorneys. So we work hard at representing clients and advising them, and we also love to do outreach. It's one of my personal favorite things to do, but we go out and we do outreach on specific legal issues that people want to hear about. So one thing that we do frequently is go out to local organizations that call us out, like the Housing Authority and the Center for Family Resources, we go out and we discuss specific areas of law. So we'll talk to people about family law, or we'll talk to them about housing, or and really just do a very general informational session on what their legal rights are. And a lot of times that goes a very long way just for people to know their basic rights. With landlord tenant, I never get tired of doing it, and I tell people that there are laws that say that you need to live in decent sanitary housing, and that's always shocking to somebody. And so that's a common form of outreach. And then we also try to get out in the community. In the Hispanic community, we're really trying to really expand that effort right now. And really just anytime anybody calls us, we'll try to be there and we'll try to make it work. We can do on-site intake. We can do pretty much anything that people ask us to do. We'll make it work.
Very good. Belisa?
Our organization served last year almost 4,000 Latino clients here in Metro Atlanta. Through different programs, we have a couples program that is geared to helping couples establish a better relationship, gain communication skills. We do a lot of parenting programs, from basic parenting skills to our newest program in Cobb County, which is called Triple P Parenting. That is helping parents that have kids younger than 10 that might be having a real difficult time dealing with their child's behavior. We go and we can work on them even one-on-one. We partner with the schools, with public schools, and we do programs like Strengthening Families, in which we have parents and the kids ages 10 to 14, and we work on family communication skills and helping them get together and even have a family meeting, which sounds very easy, but very complicated when you have parents that are first generation that don't speak enough English, and then you have kids that are second generation that might not speak enough Spanish. So, even a language barrier and a cultural barrier be existing within a family. We also do cultural proficiency, as I mentioned before, in which we go into the community and do outreach and help other organizations understand the dynamics of the Latino community and how to serve them better. We have a program that is called Georgia Latinos Against Domestic Violence, in which we go and educate about the reality of domestic violence, in particular when it comes to the Latino community. We opened back in October a mental health office in South Cobb, which was a big deal because in Cobb County there are more than 80,000 Latinos, and there are less than 5 bilingual mental health professionals that can speak Spanish. So we kept opening, getting the funding and opening an extra day and filling that day in less than a week. So it has been, very fulfilling in a way, but very sad at the same time to realize, how big the need is. So we just do many programs in the community trying to, help. There's not another organization in Cobb County that serves Latino families in such a comprehensive manner when it comes to social and family services. And just an idea for the fellow, panel members, as much as it's tempting, if we can, let's not use children as interpreters. I know that they're handy and they're there, but we see a lot of children with trauma after listening to the things that they have to listen. And I know, I do a lot of partnering and educating law enforcement, and I know how difficult it is, and also other agencies. But it's very difficult for children when they have to hear the things that they hear. So if there's an other alternative, it's better than many times than using a child.
Obviously, and there are times when there are other alternatives, but sometimes in the heat of the moment there aren't. So duly noted for all service agencies. When we have the opportunity to serve parents who come in with their children and vice versa, because as you mentioned, sometimes we have parents who don't speak English, but children who don't speak the native language, and so there's the difficulty within the family itself.
Another thing that is important is that you put that child in a position of power. That child will never be a child again, and the family dynamics is completely disrupted. The child is ruling the family now, and we see that in our community a lot, in which by 12 or 13, the children are the ones that are calling the shots in the family, which is very scary.
Very interesting to note. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to direct the next question to Ms. Rogers because I know you have a background with PTSA, I think, is now is what it's called, right?
Oh, PTA.
PTA, sorry about that. Okay. I could read my own notes to know that. But let's talk about what you're seeing in the schools. We know we have a lot of different languages that are spoken in each of our schools here in Cobb, as well as other schools in the metro area. Are you seeing programs for specific communities, or are you seeing schools that are offering cultural diversity for the entire school system? Can you speak a little bit to that? And then if anybody else wants to jump in with that, you certainly can.
Well, I sure can. We're actually going to have an International Day at our school on March the 21st, so please come out, Powder Springs Elementary. And it's going to recognize everybody's culture, so you can bring whatever your culture is, bring it out so everybody can be more cognizant of, let's say, the African American community. We really don't have anything, but if we did, you could bring something out for that. But, you know, if you're Jamaican, if you're Hungarian, whatever, you know, the food is, you know, let's we'll assume that tacos come from Mexico and they're U.S. food, so you wouldn't see somebody, you know, Hispanic bringing in tacos because, you know, that's just not the case. But we try to be very diverse with everything we do. We also, when we send home things, it's also in English and in Spanish. One thing we also do when we have our meetings, we have an interpreter on site. So whatever language someone will be speaking or needs an interpreter in, we'll have someone there to assist. And that's very important because it doesn't give the children power, because it's very sad when you're talking to a parent and the child has to interpret, and the parent, you can really see how they kind of lose their value a little bit, feeling that they have to rely on what they're saying because they don't understand. So we really try to be inclusive with everything that we do. From every little child, every child has a voice, every parent has a voice, and we want to hear your voice. If I don't understand what you're saying, I want to get somebody that can help me, and I don't want you to think that your thoughts don't matter, because everybody is important.
Very good. Any of the other panelists like to share any information about how our schools are responding to our cultural diversity issues?
I can say that there probably has to be a lot more work on bullying and addressing the needs of a lot of kids. You know, we were just a part of a bullying panel in one of the Gurdwaras, which is a religious institution for the Sikh community, and the Sikh community wears turbans, and part of what we hear is because of the turbans, there's a lot of harassment. And in fact, in another county, there was a huge lawsuit based on the harassment that occurred to this child because he wore a turban, and the school did not respond. And so I think part of it is just doing more education. My own nephews grew up hearing things like, you know, a lot of assumptions about what their religion is, or go back to your country, or assumptions about their religion. And I think that we have to do more around that, because time after time we had a speaker talk about, you know, the bullying at our fundraiser, and what I'm hearing from other kids is that many of them are experiencing that and they're not getting the support. So really, if there's more that we can do in addressing the bullying and making sure that kids are have the support, and that teachers know how to respond when they are being bullied.
Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in with that?
One of the main ways that we partner with schools is through our different parenting classes. And as the years have gone by, we have seen more and more openness, especially from the administration of the different schools, in inviting us and allowing us to come. Since our programs are specific to Latino parents, in the beginning it was a struggle because they thought, you know, you have to provide the same tools for non-Latino parents. And many times, yes, parenting skills might be universal, but, you know, every culture has some specifics, you know, when it deals to family relations and parenting in particular, that might force or make an organization just to tweak the program or acculturate the program so that it fits better the needs of that specific group. So we have seen more openness on the administration of the different schools in allowing us to come and do a program that is specific to Latino parents and that we cannot easily translate into another language or another culture.
Very good. And again, I want to remind everybody, we have specific communities represented with our panel, but we have additional resources available, as well as some resources that will be posted to the website. So we are not trying to exclude anyone. These are just the representatives that we have tonight. So I want to do an open question again to each member of the panel. And we're just going to start at the beginning because it's easier to go that way. So, Belisa, we'll start with you again. What is something that you would tell the citizens of Cobb County? What advice or encouragement would you give the citizens here to help us embrace different cultures and communities and races? What message would you send to the community?
I always say that there's an author that I cannot remember the name, but he says that America is no longer a melting pot, that America is a salad bowl. Because the concept of a melting pot means that we all have to melt in one thing that is the same for everybody, as opposed to a salad bowl in which everybody retains, their own characteristics, but we all mingle and get together in a salad bowl and we can make a very tasty salad. So what I have learned through my own experience, and I would relay the message to the residents of Cobb County, is that I feel Latina. I speak Spanish. I have tried to keep my kids, feeling Latino. But that doesn't mean that I don't love Georgia, that I don't love this county, and I love the people that live here, because this is home for me now. And it is in my best interest to make this the best place for my family to live in. So we don't have to be the same. We can appreciate those differences and make them so that they work in our favor. This is our salad bowl. Just make it tasty.
Very nice. Thank you.
I don't know that my answer is as creative as that, but I would encourage people to reach out, be open to trying something new, to finding out something new, and ask questions. When I came here, I was real young, but when I came here, I didn't speak the language, and I think that it goes a long way to just ask questions and talk to them. Who are you? What are you doing? What do you like? What do you dislike? And there are resources out there, and we're hearing from the panel this evening that there's something out there for everybody. You just need to be open, and you need to want to learn about it. So, let the curiosity get the better of you and go out and ask, and you might learn something new and you might enjoy it.
Thank you. Detective?
One of the things we always hear from the community when we talk to them, especially I hear from the Latino community, they're expecting Dirty Harry, they're expecting the movies. So when we come and speak to them and they hear us and they hear that some of us speak Spanish or other languages, they start to realize this is something different. So what we try to tell them is, we're regular people just like them. We're all regular Joes. We're just trying to help them get by their tough days, and by investigating the crimes that happen in their community. And all we're asking for, hey, we'll extend the hand, extend back, and give us a little bit, we'll give a little bit more. So all we're asking is to keep that line of communication. Keep us. Keep us in a better light than the gunslingers that they think they are when they come from their country. So one thing also we try to explain to them too is, I know a lot of people, especially from some of these countries in Central America, come from a lot of violence, and the violence that they see in the streets. What we try to explain to them here, the police are a lot different. The investigations do go forward. Things aren't forgotten. So we will go that extra mile. We will investigate everything to the fullest that we can to make sure that justice is served as best we can
For everybody.
for everyone.
Exactly. Thank you.
I think that I would caution people to not stereotype. All of us have preconceived notions about how that person is or this culture is or whatever, and if you just leave that to the side, as many people have said here this evening, talk to people with respect, the same respect that you would like to see. I love the salad bowl. I think that the thing that I see every day at Sweetwater is that when you help someone and you lift them up, it lifts you up. So if we are all helping each other, the whole community benefits from that, not just one person, not just that family that you helped, everyone around them. And that, I think, is something we need to all be doing, is helping each other. Because turns out, if we're not helping each other, ain't nobody helping us.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. Also, what I have to say is be more open-minded, because mainly when people look at international, they think that we're coming here to steal their jobs or, to try to be better than them because we speak another language. They probably just speak English. But that's not it. We're here because, we want to be here, we want to work, and we want to like this country, and we want to be here, and then maybe people want to create family here and be with our future here as well. So what I like to tell the community is to not judge us for, us speaking another language, or for us, having better jobs or anything, because we're hardworking people just like everyone else. So we're not trying to tell other people that we're better or that we're worse. We're just, like she said, Salabo, we're just trying to blend in and be all united and be like a family.
Very good, thank you.
I would say a person is a person, no matter how small. Dr. Seuss, his birthday's coming up. But also, you shouldn't judge a book by its color or by the way they speak. You should get to know it and read it, and then if you don't like me because of who I am or something about me, but don't just look at the color of my skin and say, I don't like you because you're this, or I don't like you because you speak this language. Get to know me, understand where I'm from, I can understand where you're coming from, but don't threaten me with brutality and you don't know who I am.
Wow, I get to be the last one. I like the don't judge a book by its cover, because I think out of all of us, I'm probably the one that was actually born in Georgia and raised in Georgia, and when people look at me, I get interesting comments of like, wow, you speak English well, and I'm like, well, it was my first language. But when people look at me, there's a lot of assumptions about who I am, and if you were to ask me, I was born and raised in Georgia. I'm a Georgia girl all the way. I don't want to be rushed for dinner, all that stuff. So get to know folks, don't make assumptions, because a lot of us are part of the community and been a part of the community, and just because I look like Kim doesn't mean I'm any less a Georgian. And the thing that always runs true for me is, having been raised in the South, is thinking about Southern hospitality, right? That's part of our culture. It's something that's sweet. And if we kind of keep to that, then we'll be welcoming and kind to folks, and to not let differences scare us off, but more let us get to know people and learn more, because it'll just enrich our lives.
Great, thank you. And I want to remind the live audience here that we do have opportunities for questions, so if anyone has any questions, go ahead and send those up. We'll be wrapping up in the next few minutes. My timekeeper's keeping me on time here. So we have talked a lot about, we've used the term illegal, we've used the term undocumented, non-citizen, those sorts of things. I don't know who the most appropriate person to answer this is, so if you want to answer, just raise your hand and jump in. There obviously, we've talked about, there's relief for victims and witnesses of crime, immigration relief for victims and witnesses, but there's also a process by which someone can obtain documentation and become a citizen. So if anybody wants to discuss that, just raise your hand and we'll go to you. Okay, several people. So
Go first, I'll jump in.
We'll start with Christina.
Okay, I probably don't know as much as you do, but I prefer the word undocumented personally. So what we do at Legal Aid is mostly U visas and VAWAs, and what that is when a person who is here without proper documentation to be here legally, she can, if she's been the victim of domestic violence or sexual assault, or has somehow been involved, then she can seek an immigration, solution by filing a U visa or VAWA petition, and that's if she has cooperated with the investigation and with the criminal process in prosecuting the individual who's committed the crime. So it's basically just asking for forgiveness, essentially, is what it is saying, listen, yes, I came here illegally, I'm not here the way I should be, however, there was this awful crime and I've cooperated, so may I please be forgiven, if you can correct me. But so those are the two main ways that Legal Aid provides immigration assistance, and I'm sure that there are plenty of others that you'll be told about, but those are my two.
Yeah, there are a number of agencies that do it. And what I would say is for the U visa, you don't have to be undocumented. Like I said, you might have individuals who are here on, say, a student visa or an H-4, like I talked about earlier, that could apply for a U visa. But it does require that there is a police report and that you've cooperated with law enforcement or the prosecutor's office or a district attorney's office, and they would have to sign off on it. For VAWA, the self-petition, you don't have to cooperate with law enforcement. You just have to be married to a citizen or green card holder. So it's a very different process, and it doesn't require that you call the police. So there's a different threshold based on what your status is. And so you would use different reliefs based on different situations. So that's one thing I would say. And I prefer the term undocumented because a lot of times it's the assumption that immigration law is not necessarily the same thing as criminal law. And so a lot of individuals may come in with appropriate documentation and it might expire. Maybe they're bad or never file the right paperwork. So we tend to say undocumented because it's not really illegal per se, because it's not a violation of criminal law. It's kind of like there's a lot of things we do when we're violating family law, but we're not called illegal when we do it. So if you want to really work with community and you want to kind of not let them feel stigmatized and they feel comfortable coming, then I wouldn't say illegal alien, because what it does is there's an assumption. It feels like it's a very negative. If you could say undocumented without papers, then it might feel safer for them to come to you. And it's just something to keep in mind that when you're doing the work, as when we're doing outreach, we tend to say undocumented because it's a safer term.
Right, and so some of that is culturally from an American's perspective of things that we've said and been taught. And so we've learned over the years sometimes that it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and how you approach different situations, but always a good reminder for that. Ronan, do you have any experience with the citizenship aspect, or do you have any advice to someone who may want to obtain citizenship in this country?
I do. Actually, I am not a U.S. citizen. I'm just a student, and I'm here with works permit.
Mm-hmm.
And what the government, the federal government, did is they established this new law. I believe it's called the DACA, which is the deferred action. And what students can do is, if they've been here for a certain amount of years, and then they speak English, and then they can prove that they're gonna go to school or they're gonna go have a job or something like that, that they can apply for this document, and they can. With that document, they get the work permit, and with the work permit, they get the social. And with the social comes many other perks by obtaining your driver's license and obtaining a job and all those sort of stuff. So that's mainly, my aspect as a student, because that, I believe for that document, you got to be 30 years and under, so you got to be young.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So.
Great. Yes, ma'am.
I am not an attorney, so I am not going to give legal advice, but I do agree with the rest of the panel that I do prefer the term undocumented, because the immigration law is very, very complicated. And many times people tend to think that is a straightforward process to get here and obtain your documents, or that you come here and you are documented and you will never lose that status. So it's a very complicated process. So it is important for people to know that is not as easy as people think it is. And another thing, you guys mentioned the U visas, and the U visas are also applicable to other victims of crime that are not domestic violence crimes. So that is important for people to know that might be a relief for people that have been involved in other sorts of crime situation.
Right. And all of the information about immigration relief, as well as citizenship information, can be obtained on the UCSIS website. Is that right?
USCIS.
Thank you. I said it right the first time. USCIS website. And they have a wide variety of forms, as well as brochures that explain in different languages and what the citizenship requirements are, as well as the visa requirements for U visas, T visas, and S visas, and the work visas that you spoke about as well. So, okay, great. So we've talked about a lot of resources. I'm going to frame a question and then move away from it to give you time to think about it. because we're going to end our panel discussion with what I warned you about earlier, either in your native language or however you want to present an elevator speech to the community in which you represent. For one thing, you would want them to know about resources or your services or what's available or where to get help or the number or the website or whatever you want to leave. Okay, so we're going to let you close it out with that. But before, I'm going to let you think about that for a minute, and I want you to also think about, because we've talked about a lot of resources and a lot of communities that have resources available to them, is there an area, is there a culturally specific area in which we're lacking, in which we need to reach out to our community and say, we need help in this area? Belisa?
For me, I guess one of the biggest areas is any services that have to do with family relations and mental health. In not only for Latinos, for many other communities, we need help. You know, the need is great, and we tend to think that, you know, especially when we think about the kids, oh, they learn to learn English and do well in school. The language problem is going to get resolved in several years because they learn English really fast. And we might give them all the skills to do well in school, but if they don't have a stable home environment, if they are going through all the difficulties that many of our Latino children go through, doing well in school and having a successful future might not be as easy as we think it's going to be.
That's actually a really tough question. I think that we could certainly improve in every department. I do, because I don't think anything is perfect, right? I think we can always provide more services, but that doesn't answer your question. I suppose one thing that I hear from my Spanish-speaking clients often, and I think I can stand to be corrected by some of the other panelists, is transportation being one, and access to English language classes or services, if you will, being two. So those are sort of two big things, and so I think just maybe having, for the victims, once again, I keep going to that, but you know, one of the barriers to a victim getting away from her abuser is not having a car or not being able to seek help. So I guess those are my two things if I had to pick two, and I may just not be in touch with all of the resources, so I'm open to anything that anybody has. But yeah, I'd say learning English for those who want to for free and don't have the income to pay for it, and transportation.
We actually had a lot of questions submitted about transportation issues, and some of you talked about those as services or lack thereof for your agency. So not just for culturally specific populations, but for the underprivileged population and the lower income populations, transportation is a huge issue. So I think that's across the board for a lot of people in our community. All right, so Detective, the question is there a culturally specific area in which we're lacking in services, resources, or response so that we can reach out to our community to try to fill that gap?
Well, I think we do try to reach out as best we can, but I think the one problem is, even though there are church groups, there are community groups that do talk to us and get back to us, there's no centralized group or location where victims can actually go to, and let's say a medium, you know, to contact us and said, we have someone here that, you know, can contact you or wants to talk to you. No one truly trusts any group, and it's not to say they shouldn't trust them, but I do know church groups that people are afraid to go to them because there's people within the group that they fear will tell other people, and they fear retaliation. So yes, I think it's more that security thing where people are afraid to talk to us sometimes or talk to people to tell us because they fear that someone in that community will retaliate against them. So maybe having some sort of group or secure, it's hard to say secure group, but it's some sort of maybe like an advocacy group that would secretly contact us, give us that information. I mean, it doesn't have to be firsthand. They don't have to put us face to face, but say, listen, we have information that might be able to help you out with cases, because that's one of the biggest things we've seen. And a lot of people say it carries over from their home countries, where there's actually people in their community that they have from their country who unfortunately were involved in violence back there and are involved in violence here.
Right. Thank you.
I think one thing is that we as a community need to work harder to understand each other. I think we all think we know, but we don't really. As evidenced by, all of us, just we're in this world and don't really know about everybody else that's doing similar things and can be helpful. We've talked about transportation. I think a really important issue is affordable housing. You can't be successful in anything that you do if you don't have a place to live. You can't get a job if you don't have an address. And if you don't have an address, if you can't get a job, then how do you buy your groceries? How do you pay for school? How do you get that transportation? So I think affordable housing is something that we are sorely lacking in this county for everyone.
I see that happens a lot in the international or Hispanic community is employment. Like, let's suppose they just figure that since you're Hispanic, since you're Latino, you're supposed to get paid less, which I think that we should, increase their wage and also see that they can provide something more for you. They have the language barrier, but still they can help you with their language that they speak. So I see that employment mainly is what we got to improve. We have a lot of improvements in education and transportation, but I figure that also employment, it's a big issue as well.
Very good point. Thank you.
I think resources, taking care of our elderly, no matter what ethnicity, is something that's very important. And just the cultural divide needs to be a better landscape. We need to know what's going on. The resources that are out here, a lot of the things that I've heard tonight, I didn't even know they existed. So there needs to be a better way of communicating things to the whole society so that people will know, hey, this is over here and this is there. Go speak to this person. A lot of more networking, a lot more of making things our community and being more involved, more hands-on to make sure that the next generation will be better and they don't have to struggle like this generation is.
Okay. Mental health, I totally agree with Elisa on that. We have a therapist who's going to start coming into Cobb County to provide services to some of our clients because she doesn't have access to transportation to get to us. So mental health is a big thing in having bilingual therapists and beyond Spanish. The South Asian community is quite big in Cobb County. We have our Indian American Cultural Center. We have a few, key centers here in Cobb County. So being able to make sure that we're also looking at language access for many of the South Asian communities, because very rarely is anything translated into any of our languages, but yet we have some high limited English proficiency rates and we're not meeting those needs. I think if anybody watched the news and saw the whole thing that happened in Alabama with the elderly Gujarati man who was beaten because the cop didn't, and I'm not bashing anybody, but it's like the access to interpretation and making sure that we have language access is really important. And making sure we have these qualified interpreters in the courtrooms, because a lot of times we're getting community members who are not trained, and again, you worry about the people telling people. A lot of times it's not uncommon for some of the interpreters to share information, so making sure that we have qualified interpreters who are trained, have signed appropriate agreements so that people can feel really safe utilizing the system. I think that those are really important things that we need to keep in mind.
Thank you. Okay, now's the time that I gave you some time to prepare for. It's your elevator speech. So each of you take just a few seconds or a minute and just whatever most important message you would like to portray in whatever language you would prefer to present that. We'll start again with Belisa.
Si estás pasando por algún problema en tu familia, hay ayuda. No te dejes ahogar, no dejes que los problemas, sientas que no puedes lidiar con los problemas. Ser Familia está disponible para ayudarte. Si quieres, te puedes comunicar con nosotros al 678-363-3079. Nos puedes conseguir en la internet en www.serfamilia.org. O nos puedes conseguir también en Facebook bajo Ser Familia Georgia, y hay ayuda para ti si necesitas alguna ayuda para tu familia.
Thank you.
Can I do mine bilingual?
Of course you can.
Okay, so just to reiterate again, Legal Aid of Cobb County is part of the Atlanta Legal Aid Society, and we assist with all sorts of civil legal cases for clients who are low income. And we always take applications, so please give us a call, and our phone number will be on the website. Entonces me llamo Cristina Dimitriescu y soy abogada con Ayuda Legal del Condado de Cobb, que es parte de Ayuda Legal de Atlanta. Si usted tiene problemas legales o preguntas legales, por favor llámanos y el número va a estar en el internet. Gracias.
Soy detective Panchamé de la Policía del Condado de Cobb. Lo que le puedo preguntar es, por favor, la comunidad, hable con nosotros. Nosotros queremos hablar con usted, pero yo sé que hay la cosa de la lengua que muchas veces no nos podemos entender y muchas veces no se quiere entender porque somos la policía y mucha gente cree que somos no vamos a hablar con usted o lo vamos a poner preso. Lo que les digo es, por favor, hable con nosotros. Queremos ayudarlos a ustedes y si no pueden hablar con nosotros, hay números que pueden llamar que hablan español. Tienen algo que aquí que en inglés se dice language line, que cuando usted llama ellos pueden poner a alguien que habla su idioma y lo podemos poner en contacto con usted o podemos comunicar y usted lo puede dar información sobre el crimen que está pasando en su zona.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Well, I only have English.
That's fine.
And I'm a little disappointed. At Sweetwater, we stabilize families, we transform lives, we provide food and clothing to our community. We are the largest food pantry, distributing food pantry in Georgia. Last year, we gave out over 1 million pounds of food. Something that we do that a lot of other services don't provide is we provide fresh vegetables and meats to our families. I encourage you all to visit our webpage, check us out, come and visit. We're in Austell, just waiting.
Thank you.
Então, eu queria falar para todos os brasileiros aí, ou para todos que falam português, que eu estou aqui para te ajudar. Se você precisar de alguma ajuda, você pode me procurar, ou pode procurar qualquer loja, qualquer edifício que fornece serviços brasileiros para que eles possam te ajudar. Nós estamos aqui para ajudar vocês. Se vocês precisarem mais de informações, pode procurar o consulado, pode procurar algum website que eles falam português e sim, estamos aqui para ajudar. Obrigado.
Thank you.
I too only have one language, and I do feel a little disadvantaged as well. But I would like to say thank you so much for inviting me out tonight. I've learned a lot from all of my distinguished colleagues on the panel, and it's just been amazing. Please input knowledge and time into your children to make them better adults so that, again, the next generation will be better than this generation, and they will understand that cultural differences are great to have, and it's a good conversation piece, and it's a good place to start a conversation, not to end it.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm not going to feel comfortable doing this in my language. And there's 20 languages in the South Asian community, so there's no way I can cover them all. So I can say Onek Dhanyavad, which is many thanks. Raksha is a nonprofit that's here to support the South Asian community. We do that, and our mission is to promote a stronger and healthier South Asian community through support services, education, and advocacy. A lot of our services include multilingual counseling services. We have a support group for survivors and a support group for children. We do advocacy. We help folks find jobs. We've helped some of our clients get over $50,000 in scholarships so that they can start their new career or support themselves. And we're here to be a resource for the community. So we try to do our best to be there for the community, and that we just know that you're not alone and that we're here to support you. And you can find us at www.raksha.org. We have a Facebook page, a Twitter page, or you can email us at raksha@raksha.org or call us at 404-876-0670.
Thank you, Aparna. And many of you I know as a colleague and as a friend, and I thank you again for taking your time to be here today, for the energy that you exhibited with the panel and the passion that you have in educating our community about these culturally specific issues. And so from me to you, thank you very much for being here. And I'm going to turn it back over to Trish so that she can close us out from the Neighborhood Safety Commission.
Thank you. Thank you for attending and watching on Channel 23 this evening. We especially want to thank our dynamic panel members and our moderator. We are honored to have each of you as our moderator and panel member this evening. Our community is very fortunate to have each of you living in Cobb, celebrating diversity, educating individuals concerning cultural variety and cultural diversity that exist in Cobb, helping individuals daily with legal advice, protecting the citizens of Cobb, providing services, food, shelter, and life skills for all individuals in Cobb who need help and assistance. You are appreciated, and we thank you for your daily service to help non-documented individuals and protecting all residents of Cobb County. We especially thank you for celebrating daily the diversity of Cobb. A special thank you to Cornelius for broadcasting this discussion on TV 23. And please join us Wednesday, March 18th at 7 o'clock when our topic will be emergency preparedness. Thank you. Good night.